Good evening, everybody. Thank you for waiting there. A few of you getting quite active in the chat, which is probably a good sign that it's an interesting topic for this evening, if not a potential divisive one. But thank you for joining. Don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you like what you see, if you like the conversation and you like the channel, really, because of course this is the English shooting live stream. We do this every single Thursday, 7:30 PM UK time. And yes, there are a few topics set out, like discussing the perfect certificate, the perfect firearms license, as it were. There are many different avenues that can take us this evening, but this is interactive. Any topics, any questions that you may have along the way, please feel free to use the chat box, get involved, join the conversation, and let's have a good live stream. So yeah, I hope you've all had a good week. As some of you from last week may be relieved to see is that I didn't die of that man flu. I'm still a little bit groggy, and have been able to pass that on to my family and fiance. So they're, I'm certainly in their good books at the moment. But yeah, I hope you're all doing well. And yeah, I thought this would be quite an interesting take of a topic and a question, given that we are most likely going to see some sort of review or change of the certification process, or the checks and balances at least that are put in place during the application process for a firearm certificate or shotgun certificate here in the UK. If you've completely forgotten, there is a very important survey that all of you should go and fill in. The police are asking for input on the potential changes to firearms licensing. So this is the police survey that we've been talking so much about. I'm going to chuck this in a second into the message box. Please click on it if you haven't already filled it out. This is one of the very rare chances that we get to have a say about what potentially could happen to firearms licensing, and what we don't want to happen is for the uneducated public to have their say, to have their voice heard louder than the people that really know best, the people that sort of live this day in, day out, and really know what would be best for firearms licensing and the procedures involved. And that's what sort of sparked this conversation this evening, because I'm sure amongst us we can come up with something far better than what the general public is likely to suggest or try and implement. So I'll drop this in the chat box quickly. If you haven't filled it in, please do so. Again, it is very, very important that we have our voice heard overall. So yeah, what would be the perfect certificate, the perfect license? Now, one of my good friends, I won't name and shame them, but I think they already have the perfect response. So they sent me a screenshot of the post over on Facebook of tonight's stream. Firearms to be acquired, yes. Ammunitions to be acquired, yes. I mean, that would be, in the current form and format of the license, that is the golden ticket. That is, yet you can go and buy everything. And this is what I mean about different avenues. We could look at it, what is the perfect firearms certificate or firearms license in terms of what you're allowed to own. That's not so much what I was thinking when we sort of came up with this idea. It's more the structure of the certificate, bearing in mind that they want to change things, bearing in mind that there is a heavy emphasis on the funding, the efficiency of these departments, and also the fee that is paid. Why not scramble brains? And again, this is why this survey is so disappointing, is because it doesn't actually allow any actual suggestion or any actual input of really how to make it better. And I think one of the best ways to increase efficiency and decrease cost across all firearms licensing departments in the UK would be to have a general firearms license. Scrap the shotgun certificate, scrap the firearm certificate, and just have a gun certificate. And a lot of people have already said, even Derek P right now and a couple of others earlier, license the person, not the gun. Now, we do this quite a lot already in the UK. I think compared to other countries across the world, we do focus more on the person. The checks and balances are on the person, but of course you have to have on a firearm certificate all these individual slots for each individual gun, and you can have a 50 cal, 50 BMG on your firearm certificate. If you don't have a slot for a 2.2 rimfire, then you can't own one. And this whole well, you've got a 50 BMG, but you can't be trusted with a 357 or a 2.2. No gun is more dangerous than the next, but you all know where I'm coming from in terms of the skill, experience, and expertise required to safely shoot something like a 50 BMG. if you can do that and you can be trusted with one of those rifles, then you can be pretty much trusted with any other caliber out there. So I think streamlining personally the certificate would be a massive step, and to not have these slots, I really don't see what difference it makes having 5 guns or 50 guns. Yes, there is the security aspect, so we still maintain the various guidances on, or the various guidance on, if you have 1 to 10 guns, this is the level of security you must have. If you have 10 to 20, then it's this. If you have 20 and above, then it's this. That's fine. I think that's perfectly sensible. But in terms of potential danger, in terms of making sure that somebody is sufficiently trained and has the right experience to have 5 guns, well, depending on the calibers and depending on their shooting experience, 5 guns versus 50 guns, it makes very little difference. We only have 2 hands. We can only carry so many guns. What can you do with 50 guns with one person that you can't do with 5? So I do really like, I know Canada is sort of a bit of a sore point at the moment when it comes to firearms laws and licensing, but the various levels, I like that. So whilst it would be a general license, and it's basically to say, like, look, this person is of sound mind, they are experienced, they are trustworthy, and they can have a firearm. I know the Americans are going, yep, I actually saw somebody say about, the Constitution is my firearm certificate, and yeah, of course, I'm not going to go out there and say, like, we shouldn't have a certificate and that's what we should be aiming for. I think there is a middle ground. There's a middle ground between nothing at all and something that's far more cost effective and efficient than what we currently have, whilst still offering the same level of prevention that our current system does. Having this streamlined license that okays the person, that has no slots, that allows you to own, let's say, up to a certain caliber, and starting it from that. So I believe the Canadian system is I think it's like shotguns and bolt action rifles is on like level 1, and then you have like handguns and some like semi-automatic rifles and semi-automatic shotguns, and then I think there's like a 3rd level which is like AR-15s, but then of course that's been banned. I'm not wholly up to date with the Canadian system, but there are various levels. I could see that being implemented very, very well within a club level. So the police already, let's say for somebody that sport shoots, you go to a club and your club is very much a part of the application process for your certificate. The police will talk to them. They will make sure that you are a full member, that you are a good person as far as they are concerned. You've behaved yourself at the range and you've been responsible, and you have adequate experience with the firearms. And maybe you allow the clubs to say, yes, this person has completed a safety course up to this caliber or up to this classification of firearm, and once you're up to that classification of firearm, you can own any amount or variation of the categories including and below that. What this is going to remove, and why this is going to make things a lot more efficient, is because the time taken on 1-for-1 variations, the paperwork, the admin, the cost in time and the monetary cost in paying people's wages to implement all of that, doing general variations, that's all going to cut it all down, and it's going to make a much more streamlined process. I still, again, you can get into a whole argument of registration leads to confiscation, but in the UK our guns are registered. The police have a list, or should do, in my experience it's not always up to date, but they should have a list of all the guns that somebody currently owns. That can still stay in place. Bringing in a truly online, a secure, I'm talking like bank level encryption, secure system online, so that people can go on and register, and have it linked in with the gun shop. So maybe the person that the certificate holder doesn't even need to go online and do anything. It's just an automatic notification from the gun shop. So the police still have the record of what guns you own, but they don't need to do all of this paperwork and in my view, waste all of this time on these 1-for-1 variations, all of these different variations, having a firearm certificate and a shotgun certificate with slightly different processes and slightly different requirements. Have one general gun license, and you're going to save a shitload of time and a shitload of money up and down the country. So instead of getting the certificate holders or aspiring certificate holders to make up the difference in the current or the deficit in what it supposedly costs to actually issue a application and what we are charged, instead of trying to just pass that on to us, why not actually drop down what it costs in the first place? So I don't know, let me know. That that's my sort of general view of it. I've talked about a general license for a very long time. I think it's an overall very popular proposal here in the UK. A lot of shooters and certificate holders do seem to support that idea. Yes, it's going to make things harder for the shotgun certificate holders, because you're not going to bring down the current requirements for a firearm certificate to a shotgun certificate. You're going to bring the shotgun certificate up to the firearm certificate and then make it general. So yeah, that is going to prevent a slightly bigger barrier to shotgun shooters. But again, maybe you just have a different class. So you have an SGC class of firearms on the general certificate. You've got to go down to a playground, do a registered like CPSA instructor taster session. They sign you off as being competent with the firearm, and then you can go to you can get your general firearms license, and it's the SGC like level 1. You then join a club, and then you move it up to a level 2. It's then not different certificates. It's just amending. It's just another box or another tick on that certificate. So, yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think? But yeah, absolutely, it should be all about the person, not about the gun. That's what I was saying about the the 5 versus 50. If someone is safe, if someone is deemed by the police to be safe to own 5 guns, why does it matter if they have 50? It just it's like all the news articles that you see about he had an arsenal of guns. Usually it's like 2 pump actions and a 2.2 rifle and like 1,000 rounds of ammunition. But they see these hauls of like 20 guns sometimes, and the media loses their mind. Like, who would ever need an arsenal that big? You're like, I can think of a few people. Something like a passport, yes. Of course, passports are done. They're not done county to county. Of course, they are done in a centralized office. I think overall that would be good, centralizing it. We've even talked about privatizing the application process. I wouldn't necessarily be against that, because if you privatize it, then, well, first of all, there is the conflict of interest that a lot of people have raised in the police doing it. And in my experience, police are anti-gun, because unfortunately, having most FEOs are ex-police officers, and having previously been police officers, usually what they see is the nasty side of firearms, the very minuscule side of firearms, statistically speaking, but that ingrains on them. I had a chat with a policeman quite recently who said, look, I've gone to people's, I've gone to shootings, I've seen people that have been shot and the bloodbath that it has created. And he's like, look, I don't like guns because of what I've seen, and what if that person becomes an FEO? That's not really a fair and balanced view and sort of take of the world and firearms community. So moving it away from the police and having it privatized, yes, there's a number of pitfalls with that, but I think if you have it privatized and it's being run for a profit, which again can have its own problems, it's going to be as efficient as possible. If someone is trying to run that department or run that organization as for profit, then they're going to try and deliver good service. Maybe like the excuse me, like the shotgun medicals. We've got MediCert and shotgun medicals that are able to, officially submit your GP form during your application. That's been privatized, and they are competitive. They're competitive on price, and they're competitive on service, because you can either go to shotgun medicals or you can go to MediCert, and you're going to weigh them up. So perhaps we open it up and we have approved businesses that this is what they do, either online or in person or so on and so forth, and they have to do it to government standards, and they take on the responsibility of issuing out these certificates. First of all, I think in some way the police would actually like that, because it relieves a lot of liability on them. They really, well, look at recent events, the Plymouth shooting. The spotlight has been royally focused on them, a lot of questions wanting to be answered. It would be a lot of responsibility off of the police's back, and someone did raise a very interesting thing in terms of conflict of interest. The police, they have their own firearms officers, and they are the ones that are responsible for issuing certificates. So who is independently vetting the police? Who is independently making sure that their firearm officers are up to standard or up to scratch, and are operating within the guidance, within the law? So perhaps you have, again, a centralized office for firearms that oversees all firearms. For the police, maybe not so much the military, but for the police, for firearm and shotgun certificate holders. But yeah, Tony, I like the idea of a passport. That's maybe like a centralized office. Someone's vetted, you get your passport, you have to renew that every 5 years or so. Of course, we don't want guns to get in the hands of mentally ill, but criminals already have weapons. It's just regular Mr. Smith who doesn't. Yes, and I do get this argument, and I use it myself with the whole handgun thing. Like we had handguns banned in '97. Or we had handguns removed from Section 1 and moved on to Section 5, which made them much more harder to obtain. Not just your average sports shooter could get one. We moved them to that. And still today, 40% of firearms offences are committed with handguns. Does that mean that everyone should be able to walk into Tesco and buy a handgun? No. Not in my opinion, anyway. Again, I know American viewers and subscribers will have a very different view. That's because you have a very different culture, a very different country when it comes to firearms. But yeah, just because there are illegal firearms out there, I've never really got the logic. Certainly in the UK, and again, America is a very different case. But just because criminals have guns in the UK, I don't think that's just like open up the floodgates and just let anybody have a gun. I still think there needs to be at least some attempt. You'll never be able to stop it, and it is a compromise and a constant balancing act of going too far, not doing enough. But I think there needs to be something. I think there needs to be just a check in place, because not forgetting that it all comes back to us. At the moment, there is a them and us. There are the criminals and there are the lawful shooters. There are the certificate holders. If there's nothing in between, if there's nothing to separate, if it's just a massive free-for-all, then it's all gun owners. Then it's just and this is what happens, I think, a lot more in the States, is the people that aren't part of the gun community, that aren't firearms enthusiasts, they aren't shooters, they're just bellends with guns. They end up tarring the whole firearm community with this with the same brush, because there's no separation. The only separation really is age. Once you're of a certain age and obviously don't have a criminal record, you can go and buy a gun. But unfortunately, you get people that don't know what they're doing. They don't have a clue or any respect for shooting or firearms. They get one and they go and do something stupid, not necessarily on purpose, even by accident, and it tars all of all gun owners the same. In the UK, we do have this very distinctive line of, no, that's a criminal. Like, if they don't have a certificate and they have a gun, they are a criminal. Therefore, you can't use what they do to reflect what we do as a community. And I think having this, having this certification process to some extent in place gives us that argument. And if we just look at it and go, well, people are always going to get firearms, so it doesn't really matter, I think that would end up worse as a community. Not forgetting that in the UK, whilst there are still an abundance of illegal firearms, it's nothing compared to like the States. I've come at this many different times. The main difference is the numbers of guns available and unknown to the police or government in the US. The floodgates have already been opened. It's like shutting the gate after the horse is bolted out in the US. If you start bringing in certificates or licensing system now, it literally won't do anything. In the UK, yeah, it's a dam with a few cracks in it, but it is holding back. Your petty criminals can't go and just buy a gun. We don't hear of armed. It does happen, but it is exceedingly rare to hear of armed burglaries in the UK. Exceedingly rare to hear about armed carjacking or car thieves in the UK, or armed robberies. The criminals that have the guns are usually very serious criminals and very, very organized and intelligent. There's because it's so much harder, you have to have some sort of criminal savvy to be able to get your hands on a firearm in the first place. And yes, we do always talk about Shady Bob down the pub. I'm sure there are, again, exceptions to this, where yes, your average idiot shoplifting criminal can go down and meet Shady Bob and get a gun, but it's not as easy or on the scale that it is out in the US. And I think that's really the main difference. So the certification here, I do firmly believe it does reduce firearms crime and does reduce the misuse of firearms in the country. In the US, I don't think it ever would. Chili the dog, it's not the amount of guns, but how who has them, as shown when you compare the US and Switzerland. Switzerland has about double the gun owners, but less shootings than us. Absolutely, there's loads of examples of this. You can look at Germany, you can look at France, pretty much any gun-owning country in Europe, like the Scandinavian countries, Finland, Norway, although Norway's, we might get on to Norway a little bit later. It's not necessarily gun-related, but Finland, Norway, Sweden, those sorts of countries, high firearms ownership. They are a very gun-loving area of the world. It's very much a part of their sort of national identities in terms of the sport, in terms of hunting, and you don't hear of mass shootings out there unless it's with a bow and arrow. But it's very, very rare sort of out there to hear of anything that bad with firearms. So loads of different examples. Switzerland is the one that is used all the time, and I try to avoid Switzerland because it's always the obvious. And what is it? There's another country. I can never remember it, but there is another country that is actually a much better example, and I've gone completely blank. Needs to do more research. I think there's a country. I think is it Andorra, where it is. Let me have a quick search. I think in Andorra it is a requirement. Maybe I've got this completely wrong. I remember stumbling across this. Yeah, I think it is Andorra. In Andorra, the police will loan a rifle to every able-bodied man between 21 and 60 in case of emergency, but they suggest the men keep a rifle themselves. So I think it might be in Andorra or another country where it is like a national requirement for you to have a firearm, and yet their sort of homicide rates and crime rates was like nil. But I think there is an even better country or a better example, which again I've gone completely blank on. But we'll come back to that if I remember. Andorra is tax-free, so even cheaper guns. So Andorra sounded like a pretty good place to live, if you're going to ask me. But yeah, we all know we did it the other week in terms of looking at who has the best firearms laws. There's no correlation. There's no correlation between the amount of guns and gun crime. There are all these exceptions. There's all these countries that have very high firearms ownership rates, very low crime. You also have countries that have very high ownership firearms rate and very high levels of crime. But then you get countries that have exceedingly low firearms ownership but exceedingly high firearms crime. It's like, there is no correlation, because ultimately I think it comes down to many other factors that you can't necessarily certificate or license against, although mental health I think is one of the biggest ones, which in the UK we have sort of found some way of combating in some respect. Looking to the cost of the SC, it's a standard military security clearance level, more rigorous and consistent than FAC process, and costs approximately 60. Oh, you've deleted that message. I was reading that. So the SC clearance and DV Plus and all that is something that I have a fairly good knowledge on, having previously been SC cleared. It is and it isn't more in depth than a firearm certificate. Like, firstly, I mean, it was a very long time ago now, a number of years, but it was it's certainly a lot more personal in terms of the application. But there's nothing about your GP. Right, they look into your financials, which they don't. Well, they're threatening to do with these proposed changes to the guidance. But there's no medical or GP or stuff like that. So it is a much more personal, say, interrogation of yourself. But I don't know. I think there's certainly things that could be learnt from it. The 60 quid. I did see you say it was 60 quid. I think it costs considerably more than 60 quid to get SC cleared, and you're probably looking about the same time that it takes to get an FAC as well. I think it's like 3 to 6 months, so it depends on who does it, but 3 to 6 months quite easily. So but yeah, it's if we're talking about changing things, the SC thing, I mean, it certainly looks into sort of counter-terrorism a lot more than our current licensing system. It's, our current application process is basically, have you been a terrorist? Not are you a terrorist, but have you done any terrorist stuff? If you've not been caught doing any terrorist stuff, then you're good to go. Whereas like the SC and DV clearances, they look like, is this person a terrorist? They may have not been caught yet, but are they a terrorist? And maybe there could be more of that brought in to the firearm certificate. Of course, the major agencies are involved in these processes, and if you are on any sort of watch lists, they're not necessarily going to tell you when you apply and they tell you no, that it's because you're on a terrorist watch list. But there is going to be some liaising between these agencies and the firearms licensing departments. I don't think this was the example, but Czech Republic. I think the Czech Republic at the moment is also a very good example. I mean, their president went online and said, you know, basically the way you stop terrorists is to shoot them in the face. We didn't go online. He went out and said, like, the best way to do it is to shoot them in the face. So, you know, people should have guns to be able to do that. So it's like high gun ownership, a rich firearms community and history out there. Many different ranges and places to go shooting out there, and also a lot of guns that can be owned, also concealed carry and all that. So the Czech Republic is also a good example of high firearms ownership, low crime. So we've got Gez actually said Czech Republic. I didn't read that and then did it. Bit late to the stream. I'd rather no licensing at all, but I think the SGC is sufficient for all firearms. See, I do actually disagree with that, and I know there's a few people that are going to go, what the fuck are you saying, Callum? But I don't necessarily, and I've said this before, I don't necessarily think that the SGC is currently up to scratch, because at the moment there is no requirement to demonstrate your competence with a shotgun. And if you think about it, somebody in the UK at the age of, they can't go and buy it. So let's just say 18, because you can actually, once you've got the certificate, you can then go and buy the shotgun. But somebody turns 18, they apply for a shotgun certificate. The police ask, why do you want a shotgun certificate? They go, because I like shotguns, which is, you know, you don't need to provide a reason. You just need to not be a danger to the public or the peace. But they give you the shotgun certificate, and you've never handled a firearm. That person can then go and buy as many shotgun certificates, go and buy as many shotguns in as many different gauges as possible, go down to a playground and just start shooting. Now, like, I'm not completely comfortable with that. Like, I think there's a lot of comparisons drawn between cars and guns all of the time. I like the fact that we have tests before somebody goes and does 70 mile an hour down the motorway or down the highway. And I think before someone is allowed unsupervised to go down to a range and start shooting, there needs to be some sort of check to make sure that they are competent, that they have experience, and they're not going to be a danger to themselves or anybody else. So I would, it would be, I'm not necessarily supporting it or calling for it, but it would be very hard to argue against the call for a demonstration of competence to be able to get a shotgun certificate. And I'm not talking like the 6 months, 3 months probational period that we have for a firearm certificate. Like I was saying earlier, having some sort of CPSA approved taster session where at least somebody takes you around a playground and shows you the pointy end of the gun, the do's and don'ts, the golden rules, and all that. It does just baffle me in the UK that, like, as strict as our firearms laws are, there is no check for competency before somebody can go and buy and go and shoot a shotgun. You know, there's no, like, test for laws. You know, so somebody turns 18, finds out that they can go and get a shotgun certificate. Like, what do they then go and do with it? They're going to be in their back garden, in the suburbs within built up area, going, yeah, I've bought a clay thrower. I'm sure my neighbours won't mind. It's like baffled me. It's like, you know, they focus on the mini rifle exemption, they focus on the Mars and Lever releases, and I'm going like, the easy win here for you is the shotgun certificates. Like, you know, bring in some competency check. You know, because we can't really, you can't argue against it. Like, why shouldn't you? You know, like, even just signed off by a local playground. It has always niggled me. Not that I want it, not that I want it at all to be any harder than it already is. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the generalized thing of the shotgun certificate, whereas once you've got a shotgun certificate, you can go and buy as many as you want. Yeah, and whichever mechanism, whichever gauge you want. Yeah, I would like to see that moved over to the firearm certificate, as we were discussing earlier. Stefan, less restrictions are better. we have training and we need a license for every weapon in South Africa hasn't stopped criminals getting full autos. Yes, I'm learning more and more about certainly the laws out there in the certification process. I did do a podcast, which was Welcome to the Gun Show, that we had, like, Connors and I had a full-blown education on South African firearms laws and the processes. Like, you guys have it bad, and I would say actually yours, whilst you can own more than us, it's a lot more painful for you guys to get guns out there. The whole having, a timed license or a license that can expire for every single gun, and having them all at different times if you buy them at different times, it's just absolutely nuts. Like, your application process is by far worse than ours. And yes, it's I don't know about the illegal gun culture out in South Africa, so it may be very much like the US in the sense that the floodgates have already been opened. There's people already out there running around with AK-47s. So what's sort of the point of making it hard for the law-abiding citizens to own guns? But I don't know. I don't know enough about the culture and the firearms community out there to really comment on it. Lots of private schools used to teach 2.2 and 303 rifle shooting. Like, yes, I mean, it can be easily taken out of context here, but I think there should be more shooting at schools. Not like that. No, I think this whole thing of teaching respect and discipline, not just to get more kids shooting, but I think there is a severe lack of discipline and respect in general from youth today, and shooting sports that installs that very, very quickly and very, very aptly. So yeah, bring back rifle ranges in schools. It's like this whole thing of like, but if you have a gun in a school, something bad's gonna happen. Like, no, it's not. So yeah, I would definitely like to see more gun clubs in that's a better phrase. More gun clubs in schools, more rifle ranges in schools, not necessarily more shootings in schools. But I think there's a lot for youth to learn, to be given that responsibility, in the first place, to be entrusted with that you're actually going to get a lot of kids to sort of sit up and pay attention. Like, look, I've been trusted here, and there's no second chances. If you piss about, if you make a wrong move, it's not like, oh, don't do that again. No, it's like, get off the fucking range. Oh yeah, but sir, you're like, yeah, no, fuck off. Like, you just pointed a gun at Timmy. Like, just like, you can't do that. I won't do it again. No second chances. Now you're going to go and play hockey. So, they won't, the rest of the kids will be like, okay, I'm going to do what I'm told. But actually, dog, you need a TV show. I don't think TV could handle that. I would get far too many complaints. I mean, it's not like I don't already. So that's a fair middle ground. It's the needing to join a gun club and providing good reason for any item on FAC I find really off-putting. So the again, I keep on like sort of challenging all your points, but the needing to join a club and a good reason, again, I don't disagree with, because like part of the conversation of, is this person a danger with a gun, is establishing why they want a gun. Because if they, I want 50 rifles. Again, the Americans are just going to be like glazed over at this point and not understand it at all, which is fine. We still love you. But it's like, why do you want 50 guns? Just sort of do, they're cool. Like, I get it. Of course I get that. Like, look at collectors. That is a justification to be able to own firearms in the UK. Just a general fascination or interest in firearms. But being a member of a club, providing that good reason, or being able to not necessarily actually provide good reason, but understanding the good reason, if that makes sense. And this is something that I've been very careful of doing in the past, is people have messaged me going, you know, what is good reason to own a firearm? And I'm like, well, if you have a good reason, then you should know. Like, that's not, it always does, those sort of questions do always worry me, because I have to ask, well, does this, like, are they just trying to circumvent the application process here? So my normal retort to that is join a club and you'll find plenty of good reason. So I think joining a club and having that club assessment, seeing, you know, the club seeing you shoot, the club getting to know you, and then vouching for your application, have absolutely no problem at all. Good reason for each and every single firearm? No. Again, getting it streamlined, I think, is it's going to reduce how much it costs the police in time and money. It's going to make the whole thing a lot better for both sides, and I don't see what it prevents. You know, like, it should just be, instead of having maybe these levels or these tiers, you should have a maximum caliber. You know, you've got signed off by your club. At the end of the day, your club is the people saying that are giving the okay that you're fit to own a gun anyway. So why can't they make the choice of, you know, what you're experienced with? Yep, we've seen him see a shooter 308. He's competent, he's experienced, or they are experienced. He or she, they are experienced. They can handle that firearm, no problem at all. So, you know, everything up to and including a 308 they can own, because again, like, why if you own a 308 can't you own a 223? Like, what's the logic there? You know, oh yes, you're a fit person to own a 308, but he'd be a madman with a 223. It's just like, what, like, please. You know, I've heard all sorts of weird things in the past where police they've issued, I think it was a 243. They issued somebody a 243 for deer stalking, but they weren't comfortable with the person owning a 223 for target. And it's like, but I could just take the 243 target shooting. They're like, yeah, that's fine. But you can't trust me with a 223. No, we don't want you having a 223. So, but a 243 is a bigger caliber. It's a, like, more powerful rifle. Yeah. It's like utter madness sometimes. Nitsa, thank you very much appreciated. Is the mainland UK the same of Northern Ireland in the sense that we have to surrender our firearms for ballistic testing within a week of acquiring them? No, that is a Northern Ireland that's a Northern Ireland special right there. There was a thing that went around and it got absolutely slated. Like, it was from Hampshire, good old Hampshire. The head of Hampshire Firearms put out a letter saying that gun owners should keep old casings and shells for forensic purposes, and you can sort of see why this makes sense. So basically, if your firearms were ever stolen or misplaced and then turn up in crime, if you have old brass or stricken primer cases and old shotgun cartridges that have been fired, you can then provide them to the police and then they can forensically match the gun. However, the forensic specialists from like BASC and other organisations said, well, actually, over time, the gun changes. Over time, the firing pin wears. Over time, the bolt face wears. So you might buy a gun, go down the range, shoot the first rounds and take that casing and stick it in the safe. But there's nothing actually to say that if that gun goes missing 5-10 years down the line with 5,000 rounds having been put through it, that it is actually going to match the cases. So they actually said that it was a completely futile effort and would most likely actually cause greater confusion and hinder police more in their forensic analysis, because they might have found your gun, but because it doesn't match that initial case, they may disregard it. It was, I think it was a well-intended, all the best laid plans with all the best intentions. There was something about somebody quite famous in history having good intentions, but anyway, I digress. So yeah, it was good intentions, best laid plans, but it just didn't come. It didn't really do anything, or it wouldn't really yield anything. But yeah, in terms of actually sending it to a ballistic house, to a forensic specialist, I'm sure there are various other things that they can do with the physical firearm to, take note of its characteristics and then potentially link it back to crime if that ever happens. But yeah, I think I've heard about that before, but no, we don't thankfully have that in the UK. Let's not forget that it is, well, as I quite famously found out a number of years ago, the military and police statistically lose more firearms than legal gun owners. So there isn't a problem with, yes, that there are guns that unfortunately get stolen or go missing from certificate holders that fall into uncertificated hands. But like, if they're going to start doing things like this, then they need to do that for every MOD or police firearm. Perhaps they do. I don't know. I haven't been in the police, thankfully. Do you think using firearms in self-defense could or should ever be legalized in the United Kingdom concealed carry? I'm having flashbacks. Like what am I meant to say? Like, as a bit of backstory, because you probably don't know, but one of the main reasons I don't have a firearm certificate or shotgun certificate, hashtag no FAC, or N60 FAC to be precise, these previous discussions got me into difficulties, let's just say. How can I best answer this without... I don't think I've actually been asked this for a while. Well, I can give my generic response, actually, when it comes to self-defense. I believe people should use all legal means for self-defense. I think in a self-defense scenario where somebody fears for their life or the life of another, they should be able to use all legal means to be able to defend themselves. Dick. But concealed carry. So let's maybe move it away from the United Kingdom, because I think that's where I get myself into trouble. Do I agree with concealed carry in general? Yes, because the statistics across many countries, not just the US, although the US is a shining example, Czech Republic, as we've been talking about previously, South Africa, the overwhelming statistical data shows that concealed carry makes people safer. Okay, so if that's what the statistics say, why would you not want that? If overall it makes people safer, why wouldn't we want people to be safer? Like, that's actually like just my sort of mathematical, analytical sort of engineering mind there. That's not a political thing. That's not a gun thing. That's just if the statistics show this, and the statistics show that this is the best thing, then we do that. Like, why is that so difficult? And maybe this is why I don't understand anti-gunners and all that. Again, not taking the whole firearms love of shooting and that out of it for a second, but it's like the logic of it. I'm scared of guns, but like you're more likely to be hit by a flying toilet. Like, why are you scared of fire? You drove here. right? You didn't spend the whole time in the car scared, where statistically you have far higher chances of dying in the car than being shot with a gun in the UK. So, or even in the US, I think. I need to review and update the statistics. So, yeah, statistically, I think it's very hard to disagree with concealed carry. And not forgetting that actually there's this huge void of data when it comes to concealed carry, because it's suspected that a huge proportion of times where a concealed carry firearm has been used hasn't been reported, because guess what? There hasn't been a crime. You know, someone pulls their gun and says, "You're not mugging me tonight," and the mugger goes, "Yep, you got that right." It's like, what? Like, do you then need to go and report that to the police? Like, yeah, you should. So yeah, in concealed carry in principle, I don't have an issue with. Oh yes, that's my standard line. To quote Andrew Mercer of the UK NRA, I have no issue with self-defense with firearms. Direct quote, by the way. It's not like they're actually doing anything to push that one forward, but he did say it, so that must be okay to say online if the head of the NRA said it. But in terms specifically of the United Kingdom, it's actually Northern Ireland. Like, it's ironic that Nizza is here, but we do have concealed carry in the United Kingdom, so it's legal in Northern Ireland. You can have a handgun for self-defense and concealed carry. Can you conceal carry? I'm pretty sure you can conceal carry it, but you can have a handgun for the purpose of self-defense in Northern Ireland. That doesn't seem to pose many issues, and actually it seems to, again, make people safer. The only example I can think of a concealed carry in the UK was actually the Westminster Bridge terror attack, which was stopped by, yes, a police officer, not a member of the public. And I think I've said before, it was a private security. It wasn't. It was a member of the like special protection unit for diplomats and MPs and stuff like that. So they were a police officer, but they were concealed carrying. And as far as my understanding of those events that happened, the reason he was able to stop it was because he was concealed. So there's this whole thing, and I do watch a fair amount of American videos on in general and channels, and of course they talk about concealed carry and self-defense, but they're saying that concealed carry is the way you should do it. Like, yes, there's if you're open carrying, then the majority of people just aren't going to even start. But in an active shooter situation, if an active shooter sees, or even an active stabber, as it was in the Westminster Bridge attack, if they see somebody with a firearm, that is going to be their next target. Everyone else who is unarmed and not a threat, fine. Like, don't give a shit. They've got a gun. They're unarmed. They're not going to bother me. But they see somebody open carrying a firearm. Well, I'm going to get to them before they're able to draw that and use it on me. So the guy was concealed carrying. He was able to draw and stop it. So that is the only example that I'm aware of. Not a member of the public, but yes, concealed carry, self-defense in the UK, and overall it was quite a successful result. So I think I've managed to completely skirt around your question by answering various smaller questions, but you can probably build a picture. Why have you put that on here 5 times? You could have knocked. Oh, Jesus Christ. Sorry, I just put my order in. Sorry. So stand by me, but I haven't eaten dinner yet, so I'm gonna have a big tasty with bacon meal, and 3 chicken selects with chili dip. No lettuce in big tasty. Thank you. Anyway, so I guess we might be wrapping up the stream a little bit earlier when that comes in, but I'm sure the Uber dad will let me know when it's here. Get Callum's the kid meal. I am not a kid size, Daniel. You should be aware of this. With a toy, if only they had gun toys. Marnie, get him a Big Mac meal and I'll have a nugget Happy Meal. Is it just like, you know, McDonald's round the English shooting live stream tonight or something like that? Spicy bean burger? Oh, don't tell me you're veggie. It's got to be about that meat. You could, but what somebody was saying about, what's that? Russell Williams, you could, but the safe is approved / rated for 10. If you safe at home office approved for 10, then you get 10 slots. If you want more, buy another safe. That's not strictly true. So Rick B, good to see your appetite is back. It very rarely goes. I'm going to be completely honest with that. But in terms of the safes, so I've had this exact discussion with my FEO in the past, where they come and like I have I think it's I forget. I think it's like a 9 to 10 safe, and I have a 6 to 7 safe. So of course they instantly go, well, the lowest number's 6 and 9, so therefore you can only have 15 guns. Actually, it might be lower than that, because I remember when I applied for a variation, and it was a lot of guns. It was more guns than the specified capacity of both of my safes. But I sort of like, you know, everyone's been there with, certainly with the Bratton Sound safes, right? They say like six guns. You can get 12 in there. You top and tail, yes, you can get 6, all in the nice slots with loads of space between them. Like, that's what they mean by a 6-gun safe. But if you top and tail, you know, if they're shotguns, if they're unscoped or iron-sighted rifles, if they're long-barreled pistols, moderators, stuff like that, you can get a hell of a lot more than the stated capacity. And I had this discussion with my FEO at the time, and he looked up and said, like, look, at the end of the day, it's your requirement to make sure that these firearms are secured safely. If you are telling me that you can get the number of guns in your safe that you have applied for in there, that's down to you. And we're already entrusting you with a fire. This was a really sort of level-headed approach from this FEO, and fair fucking play to him. Look, it's on you. If you ever give us a call and say, yeah, my house got broken into, I wasn't able to fit all those guns in the safe, and I left one on the bed and they've made off with one, that's going to be on you. So, you know, he just passed the buck on to me, which is what they should be doing. At the end of the day, they are giving you a firearm certificate. They're giving you a fair amount of trust already. Trusting you then to get them all in the safe, like, I think that's a much smaller bit of responsibility overall. So this whole thing about an FEO will only allow you up to what the safe says, not strictly true, because there are so many people that store so much more in their saves above their limits, way above. And it's sorry, there's been complications with my order. Nothing wrong with eating on the stream. I just feel embarrassed. I like to eat. I like to eat in privacy. Not like that. William Tell, you're dead right. We are vetted more than almost any other citizen. They've got to give us trust to store guns safely. Yep. Sorry, Callum, you missed the first part. Stop having multiple conversations. It's hard to keep up. Oh, okay. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. But anyway, that's just a bit more, you know, a bit more of a conversation and maybe a bit of education to people. So like nearly 100 people watching, only 38 likes. Hit that like button. I'm not, you know, I'm doing this for free. The least you can do is hit that like button. It does make me feel warm and fuzzy inside. If you want to feel warm and fuzzy inside, not like that, I've got something that's going to tickle you. And I posted this on the English Shooting Facebook page today. And it was like, of course, illegal firearms should be off the street. The police, you know, bravo, taking a gun off the street. Good job. Like, have no problem with that. You know, taking guns out of criminals' hands, absolutely go for your life. So Bedfordshire Police today posted this. We have taken a gun off the street of Bedfordshire after officers found the firearm in a washing machine during a warrant. Officers also recovered a sword and Class A drugs during the warrant in Bedfordshire on Monday. A man in his 60s, that's not the 1860s, and that will make a little bit more sense in a second. A man in his 60s from Bedfordshire, Bedford, was arrested on suspicion of possession of a firearm and being concerned in the supply of a controlled drug as a result of a warrant. So, you know, it's a big post. They're shouting loud and proud about it. Do you want to know what this, you know, obviously this weapon of mass destruction is? Yeah. Like, yeah, but shiver my timbers. Like, it's like this is not the sort this is not the sort of thing you shout loud and proud about, you know. It's not it's not like, yes, every gun potentially every gun can potentially be dangerous, but that's probably going to be more dangerous to the user. And the police seem to be doing this more and more, these sort of showcase posts, these sort of, you know, look what we've got, what we've got. And there was one the other day where they had like a spoon or a spatula, and it's like what are you doing? Like, this isn't, you haven't foiled some criminal mastermind here. And somebody saying like the DNX reproduction, this is what a lot of people were saying. Like, I didn't initially spot this, but somebody, they were saying that, again, I'm not huge into my flintlocks and all this, but they were saying there's a number of quite fundamental components of this gun missing, and that it's actually a replica. You should wait to see if it's actually a firearm you've taken off, you know, instead of oh, we've dropped out. Oh, don't do this to me. coming back. Right, had a little dropout. Sorry about that. It's been it's a bit lively today with the internet connection. But yes, you know, before going on online and shouting about taking a firearm off the street, maybe make sure that it's actually a firearm in the first place, and also what I said was, somebody tell Jack Sparrow that Bedfordshire Police have something for them. Like, it's you know, it does just make the whole thing a little bit absurd and a little bit laughable overall. Yes, an illegal firearm is an illegal firearm, and you know, the more that are taken off the street, the better. But this just makes us look laughable. You know, this does not have the result I think the police want to have. Truth Junkie, it is a replica, so that is definitely not a firearm. So yeah, sorry guys, yeah, I did drop out for a sec, but yeah, I don't know what it is. I've sort of nailed the whole stream thing. the whole connection problems that we've had in the past, but today just seems to be a little bit more choppy than usual. I don't know why, so apologies for that. But some people didn't lose me. Oh, okay, well, I never lose you too, Chili. You're always there. Please look above RE 1522 question. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, if I do miss something, let me know. Guess Roberts. What did you say? Oh, do you know where I can get a better spring for my 1522 mags? With the mag load conversion fitted, I'm having issues with the last round bolt hold open. So, this is potentially, well, why do I still have this up there? Let's bring this. Let's bring me back, because I'm far better looking than that Shiver Me Timbers gun. So, I put the video out yesterday of the 1522 mags and the issues that people have, or the, you know, it's the life of the mag when they wear out, when you start having problems. Nope. Sorry, I got a message. You don't worry, you're important, but that could have been more important. But you guys more important than that message. But yeah, so made that video on the Smith mags yesterday. Basically talking about the feed lips. The feed lips do eventually wear, but within that video, I talked about the changing dimensions of the magazine. So the newer mags are having they're having more issues with binding of the followers, and also issues with the last round hold open, because what happens with it, so an injection molded part, you have a cavity, right? But the surface will get worn down slowly from the friction of the plastic being squirted in there at silly high temperatures, and also certainly if you have a glass filled nylon, it is fairly abrasive on the mold. So the cavity ends up getting bigger and all the dimensions change. And what's ended up happening with the Smith mags is not only has the outward dimension gone, so that's gone out, that's why you're getting them, newer mags and newer guns seem to get stuck in the mag well, maybe take a little bit of wear or sandpaper to get them going well. But the internals of the mag have also tightened up. So what we have seen, certainly for our extensions, at the end of the day, you're putting a +6 extension on a standard mag with a standard spring. That spring is having to do, you know, the same work under less pressure because you've given it more space. Certainly with tighter magazines, more friction on the follower, this all combines can have issues with the last round bolt hold open, but there's a really easy fix to them, and this is the standard thing that we say to people, and it works. There's two things to potentially get rid of it. Most people fix it straight away, and this even works for the standard mags. If you ever have issues with last round bolt hold open with a Smith gun, and I'm not talking necessarily about just the 1522, but I'm talking about the Lantacs that use the better mag adapters. They can be quite finicky with the last round bolt hold open. All you have to do is take the spring out and give it a stretch. I'm not talking massive, but give it a stretch. It will lengthen the spring, which means that when you put it into the magazine, there will be more compression, and that will give it a bit more force, which will then engage the last round bolt hold open. We are going to be bringing out, or we are going to have new springs for the 1522, because Magload is very, very close to releasing a out of the box 31 round general 2.2 universal 2.2 magazine. It is intended to be able to be used with all 2.2 AR guns. So, your Tippmans, your CMMG conversions with your CMMG guns, with guns with better mags, the 1522, the Chris Defiance. So it's a general 2.2 magazine out of the factory, 31 rounds, with significant changes to it that we think will make it the best 2.2 mag. A lot of people are saying that oh great, a Magload mag, it's going to be really good because we've got quite a lot of experience with magazines and extensions and things like that. We're not actually. It will be a product, of course it will be a product, but the main incentive of us doing that, like I was saying in the video that went out last night, Smith mags are impossible to get hold of. Managed to get one. Wayne from Northwest Custom Parts got a batch of 50 in, and I was like, I knew it was coming, and I was sat there like on the website. As soon as I saw that they were in stock, I rushed down there. I didn't rush down there. I put in an order. And I could only buy one. And I gave him a quick message. I was like, look, I heard that you were getting a batch of 50 in, but I could only buy one from the website. And he's like, yeah, I've only got one left. And this was like in a day, like 50. Just, you cannot get these mags for love nor money. So it's, yeah. We're actually developing this mag for us because between Connors and I, we have three, and including between Connors and I, and including the new mag that we have 3 working or good competition magazines, 25 round magazines. This is also another reason that we brought out the +7 extension for the +10 magazine, because we knew we were going to get to the point where we were going to have to start using the 10 rounders because we didn't have enough 25 rounders. So you can get the +7, so you have 17 rounds. That will see you through most stages. It's a good backup mag to have. Metal feed lips. Yes, this is something that we explored. We didn't go in this design for metal feed lips. It would have increased the complexity of the design, increased the amount of development required, and ultimately increased the cost of the magazine. However, the reason you want metal feed lips is because the old ones wear out. Well, certainly the 1522 feed lips wear out. 2 things, and unfortunately I don't have one to show because it's still very much in prototype stage. The feed lips of the Magload magazine are like 2 or 3 times the thickness. They are going to last an incredible amount of time over the standard 1522 magazines. So like again, that is the Achilles heel of the 1522. The mags eventually wear out, and the design and thickness of those feed lips, without affecting function, without affecting performance, will mean that the mag should last like 5-10 times that over an OEM Smith mag. The other thing is the material choice. We're going to be very specific. They will be injection molded. Again, they will be a polymer mag. They're not going to be printed. Far too expensive to have those things printed and be able to actually sell them on the market. But they will be injection molded, but we're going to use a different plastic, a different material, which will naturally be higher wearing, higher, well, it'll be longer lasting, and will live up to wear more and more. So yes, I know in an ideal world that, you know, the metal feed lips, like the Tippmann, I know I'm not the Tippmann's biggest fan, but they did get it right with that. We're designing it in a way that it's still going to last a bloody long time, and outlive a 1522. No problem no problem at all. So yeah, back onto the extensions. Get your spring out, give it a stretch, put it back in, and see if it works. If that doesn't work, then you need to drop us an email. So, you know, we maybe get one person every month or two that needs to, basically, you need to reset the spring memory. So and we have looked, so because we're developing, I like various different areas that I was going with this, because we're developing our own mag, we will be having our own spring made, which will be made for the full 31 round length. So we will either we'll start offering that as a separate upgrade spring to people, but seriously, we have sold thousands of these extensions, and it's only a very small amount. I can probably count on one hand the amount of people that have emailed us about the last round bolt hold open. So and every single time we've had somebody contact with us, either the manual stretching of it, or what I'll get onto in a second, the resetting the memory of the spring, has worked every single time. So it's like, you know, are we going to then start supplying springs with every single extension just for a very small proportion? And this is where the dimensions and tolerances of the magazine and the gun, and how clean everything is, even down to what ammo you're using and how clean and slippery that is, it all comes into play. And sometimes you get the perfect storm, and the last round bolt hold open won't work. But yeah, you pull that spring, you stretch it a little bit, that should fix the issue. If not, then you need to oven the spring. There's a really straightforward set out procedure that we can send to you. So if the manual stretching doesn't work, drop us an email, and then we'll send you the procedure to manually reset the memory of the spring, which will 100% fix it. So there we go. You don't need a better spring. You just need to either I say it works, but not for long. Drop us an email. I'll send you the procedure for resetting the memory of the spring in the oven. That works 100% of the time. We've not had somebody come back and say that doesn't work. But yeah, we will have a spring, so stand by. If you really want to get an upgrade spring, we can do that for you at a later date. One of my 1522 mags, only 6 months old, knackered already. Yeah, it's unfortunately, it depends on how much shooting you're doing. There is two secs. Yeah, it depends on, like, you know, how much shooting you're doing, how rough and tough you are with the mags. Some people seem to think that the McFadden Lightning loaders wear out the mags quicker. Yes, they do. There is more wear from using those speed loaders, but it's not particularly noticeable. So one of the original mags that I had with my 1522, that I had that mag for like 5 or 6 years, put thousands and thousands of rounds through it, the majority of them using a Lightning, McFadden Lightning loader. The failure point of that magazine was not the feed lips, it split. This is another failure point of those 1522 mags, is because they are bonded, they're, you know, a two-piece design, they end up splitting apart. The feed lips were still fine. So yes, they, you know, because of the mechanical force of the the way that it's putting in the rounds, there is going to be more force, there is going to be more wear, but it's really not noticeable. It's not enough. I'll be down in a sec. Okay. Thank you. There is more wear, there is more force, but yeah, I still use one. I still use them for the competition mags. It's not enough for me to not use one. So I wouldn't be worried about that. People talking about Westlakes. Yeah, I really want to get. Well, I want to get one myself at some point, but yeah, I should go and do like a tour of Westlake shop. Because he is an absolutely incredible guy, like a godfather of the shooting industry in some way. Is there a round max for mags in law? In the UK, no. For rifles and even long barrel pistols and stuff like that, there are no magazine restrictions. The only sort of ammo restriction we have in terms of capacity is with a Section 2 shotgun. So it's it has to be a 2+1. You can only have a fixed magazine tube that can take a maximum of 2 rounds plus the one in the chamber, hence the 2+1. But in terms of rifle magazines, absolutely no restrictions whatsoever. I've got a 50-round drum mag for the 1522. I've even seen 100-round beta mags for the Ruger 1022 in the past. No restrictions at all on those. I have a question. My 9mm bullets mistakenly mixed with gun oils. Are they not going to use again, or are they useless now? It depends. It depends how long they were sat in there. I mean, I don't think, if you like sort of dropped it in there and sort of picked it up and did it, should be fine. Worst case, they are dud rounds. Like, they're not going to go off, but I don't think they would be dangerous to use. I think, maybe use them for training, for a bit of plinking down the range. I can't see it necessarily being a problem, being a danger at all, using them. Jennifer, you get your FAC back yet? No FAC. Yes, no FAC yet. Fingers crossed that will change at some point. But yeah, I do want to. Daniel, Daniel, God, you get the fucking band hammer. You swing that like all the time. Unblock that message. Unblock it now, because I can't do it. I don't mind people asking. Apart from buying a number plate, that personalised number plate that says no FAC, and stop asking. But you don't just ban people's messages for asking about it. It's like, Jesus, calm down, boy. It's all right. If you don't mind taking 5 minutes to reload the damn thing, then you won't regret it. Only thing the guy at my club said was new. The cylinders. What? You moving them up? What are you talking about? Yeah, Daniel, unhide that message, or I'll hide you. But yeah, there's a little point I will probably shoot off in a sec. Removing comments isn't banning you, donut. Right, you can ban Kyle. No, don't. They are taking the piss, re your FAC. No comment. There's more to it. I just need to, like, I don't know. The police got me to be very honest and open, and it only caused me issues previously, which I think was part of the plan. They actually said, so it's when we had the meeting like 3 years ago now. So this was 2 years after I'd lost the FAC. I'd done everything that I'd asked. I'd like depoliticalized the channel, sort of wound my neck in a bit. It was like doing everything that I thought was they wanted, and they were like, no, we want to see another 2 years. And also, they said, what was it? They said in the meeting, they were like, it would look favourable if you. Oh, that's right. First of all, they told me that I could no longer. They told me I could no longer handle firearms on camera. They told me there could no longer be video or pictures of me handling firearms online. Now, given that they were the police, I mean, they're not like police officers, they're civil servants at the end of the day, but given that they were from the firearms licensing team, I was like, and also the head of the firearms licensing team telling me this, it's like, well, hang on a minute, here's the head of my firearms licensing department telling me that I'm no longer allowed to handle firearms on camera or even have pictures of me handling firearms online. I guess I better stop that. Hence the shutdown of the channel. They also talked about being honest and not. I think they use the words deceiving people, not deceiving or misleading people that I had an FAC. So I was advised by both Basque and my solicitor and barrister at the time of the appeal not to make anything public. Trust me, I was like the only one that wanted to go out online and talk about it and be transparent and honest with you guys. Like everyone around me, friends, family, legal advisors, legal people, and Basque were all like, no, don't do it. Just keep your head down, keep doing what you're doing. Don't talk about it online. They took this that I was deceiving people, misleading people, making them think that I had an FAC when I didn't, and they said that it would be beneficial for me to publicly clarify that I didn't have an FAC. Hence, and I've since taken down the video because actually I think it's a what's the word? I just think in hindsight, I just think that's utterly wrong. I think that's actually utterly disgusting. Private matters to do with myself, that they basically said, if you don't go online and clarify it, you're probably never going to get your FAC again. So I made that clarification video, ended up shutting down the channel. We then actually met a guy called Adrian Whiting, who is previous, I think, Deputy Chief of Police, and is a well-known firearms expert. When we sort of talked to him about this, and he was like, what are they talking about? There's a specific TV and film exemption within the law for you to be able to handle a firearm without an FAC. And you're not a prohibited person. They have absolutely no grounds to tell you that you can't hold a firearm on camera. So that's why I started the channel back up and I started doing videos again. So yeah, it's needless to say, there was a bit of, like in hindsight, there was a lot of things that I would definitely do differently and certainly would have challenged back then. But they are continuing with various things in the background, which previously, making divulging things online that are going on, hasn't particularly worked out well for me. So it's caused difficulties with my work, with friends, within the industry. So I still haven't decided what I'm gonna put out there, what I'm really gonna what I'm gonna say. But yeah, there is more to the reason. The application's in, and it's not just them taking a long time with the application. There are things that they are using to prevent the application from being granted, and until those have been cleared up, despite actually all that's really needed to be able to clear up what they're currently using to not process my application, was quite clearly put out by the Home Office. The Home Office made this statement on this very specific bit of firearms law, and they're like, no, we interpret it differently. I'm like, how can you interpret it differently to the Home Office? So yeah, anyway, we'll probably get onto that at some point. All will become clear. But yeah, somebody asked the IPCC, that wouldn't help. There's some really complex, like, legal fringes going on here, but anyway, Garden Guns, when are you getting your hands on a Benelli M2 Speed? Carl, he's going to he's doing it soon. Absolutely, fingers crossed. You are not a danger to public safety. I would think so as well. Bearing in mind that previously, I have held high level security clearance, but yeah, still a danger. You know, it's not like I work in the firearms industry full time. I've done that for like 3 or 4 years now. Have regular daily contact, and I don't know if access is the right word, but you know, I pretty much have a gun in my hands every single day. I'm on the range pretty much every single weekend. You would think that if I was a danger, you would know about it, right? But you know, the police think otherwise. Fair enough. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. Some are just more right than others. But anyway, let's leave it at that. Actually, I'm going to leave it on one more note. A big congratulations. It is Neil Rag's birthday today, of Rack and Load. So a big happy birthday to Neil, and also a massive congratulations. I did see actually the winner of the package came on and said hello. So congratulations to you, because you won a load of Magload swag. Hope you enjoy it. If you have any questions, let us know. Be happy to help. But yeah, big congratulations to Neil over at Rack and Load, because not only is it his birthday, but he's hit 50,000 subscribers, which is the next goal for us. So on that note, make sure you subscribe. Let's hit that 50k. Make sure you like, because it really does help. Where's the bloody Mackies? It's downstairs, and that's where I'm going right now to have my dinner. So thanks everyone for watching. I really appreciate it. Really hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you have a fantastic week, and again, really appreciate you joining and getting involved for the stream tonight. And as always, of course, hope to see you soon.